Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. We're the Movie Couple. I'm Wendy.
I'm Dustin.
And this is our review for Transformers 1. Transformers 1 is the untold origin story of Optimus Prime and Megatron, better known as sworn enemies. But once were friends, bonded like brothers, who changed the fate of Cybertron forever. Now I was just reading up on this, and it's the first ever, full CGI animated Transformers feature.
Oh, okay.
Which I was like, wow, really?
I don't know, when you put it in that way, it's kind of like, wait, no, haven't we? No, it's been the live action movies, it's been full 2D animation with the original Transformers, and we did get some CGI,
CGI,
but it was in a series. So it actually being the fully computer animated movie makes a lot of sense, and it's cool because they're able to do a lot of cool things with this kind of animation that you couldn't really do with some of the others.
Yeah, and when I kind of the same reaction as you when I read that, I was like, that can't be real. Wait a minute. Yeah. Yeah. So it is an interesting look at the origin of what we know for Transformers. Now, I feel like my exposure to it is kind of not the same as everybody else. My exposure to it was like that cartoon back in the 90s.
Yeah.
But I saw it in Taiwan. It wasn't ever I don't think I watched it in the right order, but it was just
you just saw little snippets, little episodes here and there.
Beyond if I went to my cousin's house or something like that. So we'd all watch together, and that's how I had a boy cousin, so that's all they would watch was that and G.I. Joe. And then after we turn off the cartoon, they would take out the toys, and then we would play Transformers and or G.I. Joe or both together. So that was kind of my exposure to it, but also as a child watching, an American animation on TV there, and having to read the subtitles, there was a little bit of that disconnect.
Oh wait, so they didn't dub any of it?
I can't remember, but for the most part, a lot of the times it's English and then with the subtitle.
That is really interesting that, my experience with say Japanese animation is the fact that, yeah, it was always dubbed. Well, I guess that's also just me and my taste, but anytime it was kind of broadcasted, it was always made for an American audience. But for, say, Taiwan, you would get just the way that it is.
I think that's how it was. I'm trying really hard to remember, but I feel like I would have remembered the names. Megatron is pretty easy to remember.
Yeah.
Optimus Prime, when I was young, I think that was a little bit of a mouthful, but Megatron, I feel like it's really easy, and I don't remember that. So I feel like I would read it, but I didn't comprehend hearing it.
Yeah.
In any case, so when I was watching this movie, Transformers 1, I didn't really think about, oh, this is either the right origin, or a different take on it. And it's a little bit different than your experience, because I think your feeling was that they sort of gave a slightly different origin to Optimus Prime and Megatron.
Well, yeah. I think, okay, I am not very well versed in my Transformers. I kind of remember it vaguely, but the take that they had in this movie wasn't the take that I was expecting. I was really expecting, I wanted to see more of that war on Cybertron. I wanted to see that, what was it that actually destroyed the planet, and, the foundation of that rivalry between Optimus Prime and Megatron. But then as soon as I kind of found out, oh, no, they're buddies in the beginning and almost like brothers, and I'm kind of like, okay, I can go with the brothers idea. There's a lot of good stories to where brothers have turned on each other all throughout history, but my mind was in a different spot. I was expecting something different than what they gave us. So it was a little jarring to go into and seeing it be a little bit, honestly though, I should have anticipated it being a little bit more geared towards kids.
Now, we'll circle back to the origin a little bit later in the review. I do want to touch on the animation style.
Yes.
And how great it looked for a fully... Look, here's the thing with Transformers, and I think that's why certain IPs work really well in animation. We're big fans of animated series and movies, just because in a world like Transformers, I feel like there's just always so much more you can do with animation versus live action. Everything's going to blend seamlessly already when you lay it out in a whole world. That is, the world building itself is in animation versus like live action. Then you have to add CGI. Then sometimes you run out of money, or it's too expensive to get like the good CGI, and then it like sometimes it's good, but it just doesn't blend well. So that's what I really liked about this one. That no matter where you looked, it was cohesive, and they could do really anything they wanted, and we got to see so many different worlds, and the transformation stuff like always looked really cool, especially with the sound. So I really like that. I think the cast knocked it out of the park. We've got Chris Hemsworth as our Orion Pax, aka Optimus Prime, and we have Brian Tyree Henry. Always love his work, and he is Megatron. And then we have Keegan-Michael Key as B127. We'll let you find out who he plays, but I feel like it's kind of
yeah, a little bit straightforward,
a little
and plus they're all over the promotional material.
Yes, and then we also have Scarlett Johansson as Alita. So the cast, when I saw it, I was like, oh, no problem. I think one of the best parts, though, of having Keegan-Michael Key in this, as well as like everybody else we mentioned, is the improv.
Yeah,
like I feel like a lot of
there were some moments where I'm like, does that kind of count as a little breaking the fourth wall?
It's a little
with that
meta.
Joke? There's a little meta jokes in there that I thought were hilarious.
Yes.
And it's definitely saying, hey, Keegan, we know what you do, and you do what you do well, so we're going to give you a lot of free reign on this.
Yes.
And it looks like he just had a blast.
Yeah.
Or at least it sounded like he had a blast playing this character. And the way that he kind of does it is very Michelangelo-esque.
Oh, yes.
Which gives him a lot of freedom and a lot of leeway to make a lot of really
immediately
funny jokes.
like a crowd favorite, I feel like. Yeah.
And I have, with Optimus Prime, the way that Chris Hemsworth does the voice is very, I'm like, I can hear it.
It's almost Peter Cullen.
Yeah, almost there.
Almost.
I do have
Young
to admit,
Peter Cullen.
there are some moments when his Aussie really does come through, and I'm like, huh, it's Thor.
What is it? Nor.
No, some of the no's, yes. But overall, the voice acting for each character was done really well. The way that it was, I think, executed with the dialogue was definitely more geared towards kids. I felt like there were some times where I felt like I was watching more of like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as opposed to the Transformers, to where they were going for a little bit of that young teenager slapstick kind of humor, which is fine. But when I heard, origins of Cybertron, I was expecting something a little bit more deeper, a little bit darker, but I should have known better going into a Transformers movie.
But I also think, with the points that you brought up, in hindsight, I didn't really think about this when I was watching it, but in hindsight, it makes sense because all the robots are younger, years younger, so they haven't had all the experiences that they have, in like when we, meet them as Megatron and as Optimus Prime. So I feel like in hindsight that makes sense, but while we were watching it, I was like, oh, this is like really young, but also like they are young. So one of my main criticism for this movie is less of the origin problem, because again, I didn't really have any sort of like origin that I grew up with that I was like, oh, this is how it's probably going to be told. So I kind of went in with very open, because I was like, I don't know, whatever they tell me. But it was with the pacing of the movie. I felt like they took a really long time in certain places for certain conversations that didn't need to be as long, but it still got the point across. And I felt like because of that, we kind of lost out on a lot of like time in the third act. I felt like we took so long to establish certain things in Act 1 and Act 2 that Act 3 and like ramping up to its final moment, it feels like we ran out of time, and it just feels like, oh, we're just gonna have this character and this character and this character turn heel like seemingly out of nowhere. There was no build up leading to it. It was just like, and now we're just bad.
There was some build up, but it really didn't feel like it really paid off, like it really fit. I feel like it was kind of like, okay, this is the time that we need this event to happen, so we're going to have it. And you're like, wait, but I don't feel like that would motivate that kind of response in our characters and what we've built up so far. But something that really does stand out good for me was the action scenes that happened near the ends, the fight scenes, the chase scenes,
the transforming,
the action scenes, the transforming. The way that they animated it, I really liked. I really enjoyed that, and I was like, this is really, like, I haven't really seen animation quite like that before, and it's always good to kind of still get that surprise and, oh, that's really cool, when you've seen so much animation and so many movies over the years, that it's nice to still be surprised and impressed now and again.
Yeah, and with that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this review by giving you our rating. The movie couple rating is listed for you in the video description below. So while I had fun with this movie, and I think the animation is absolutely gorgeous, and the cast was outstanding in this, there was a lot of pacing issues, and I found myself feeling a little bored, especially earlier on, first act, second act of the film, and I felt like because of that, we ran out of time in the third film, and a lot of things just happened out of necessity and timing versus letting it develop naturally. The action scenes though were so good, and I think if you're a Transformers fan, you are going to want to see those on a big screen. For my rating though, I'm going to go ahead and give this movie a stream it.
For me, there were a lot of things that I did like. I really liked the action scenes, I really liked the style of animation, and it was pretty funny. There was some really good comedic moments in this series, but overall, I felt like the storyline wasn't quite executed properly. I felt at the end, I was kind of like, okay, everything just got shoved into the Transformers that we know and love. And we started off with like, wait, how? I still don't quite understand how they got from point A to point B. And I feel like it was just kind of shoved into this mold in order for it to work. And I also feel that they just kind of threw in a lot of comedy instead of developing the characters and giving us kind of that interesting look on how Cybertron ended, how this war between Megatron and Optimus Prime is fully going ahead, because there's a lot of things that tried to get to that point, and then you're like, but wait, what happened? There's a lot of loopholes, not loopholes, but story plot holes that happen in this, to where you're like, but if this happens, what happens to all of these things? And so I felt very just unsatisfied at the end, so I'm going to give this a stream it.
And there you have it. That is our thoughts on Transformers 1. Let us know your thoughts once you've seen the film in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We will see you in the next video.